Okay, folks, and welcome to Talk Bigfoot once again. This is episode 7. And if you guys remember back a few weeks back, we had an extremely interesting guest on with us, Ginger Lockwood. And Ginger was telling us about her personal experiences around her home and the different things like that. But this week we're going to maybe change things a little bit and come a little bit more up to date, probably. But in the meantime, Ginger, hello, how are you?
Oh, I am doing just fine this morning. I hope everybody can hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. And I hope everybody can hear me well too.
I can hear you just great.
Good stuff. Well, Ginger, like I just said there, the last time we chatted about your more personal experiences around your home and different things like that. And obviously, you are an experienced researcher in your very own right. And obviously, those experiences that we chatted about beforehand have led to what you're doing now. And of course, that's over many years, Ginger, yeah?
Yes, I would definitely agree to all that. Yeah, that led me to where I am now. Exactly. Yeah. All those past experiences at my home led me to getting out of my home and having more experiences.
Yeah, and of course that's not always the case. Obviously, with everybody, has their different reasons for getting into research. Some people, don't actually have an experience maybe until they actually get into research or whatever. In other cases, some people don't have an experience at all. You know, but that's just the way it is. But obviously, you
Maybe,
have been, you
I
have been.
hope
Yes, go
I hope
go.
that everybody won it sometime. So maybe they'll get one later.
Oh yeah, well, there's time. There's time for everyone, But I suppose the first thing, Ginger, I would like to put to you then. Well, obviously, since you started researching, did it take long, out on the field, away from home, to actually get an experience out on the field, or did you have to wait a little while for that?
Um, I went about my first experience outside of my home after they came to the yard um, was about 45 minutes away from me. I went camping with a group of friends. It was my first time going to a Bigfoot camp out. I had finally met a group of friends that believed in Bigfoot, and they invited me to a camp out nearby. And I'd never had an experience outside of my home. So I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know if I would see a Bigfoot or not. And my husband and I saw two at least the first night, and which was really surprising to us. We went walking down a trail right at sunset just by ourselves, and it wasn't dark yet, but on the way back it turned dark, and we had just got off the trail and we were almost to our car, and we had to cross over a bridge. And when we got on the bridge, he said, "Look at those lights," you know, and it was just across the bridge from us, and it looked like lights just swerving in the air back and forth. And he said, "Is that Boy Scouts with flashlights?" And I kept looking because I couldn't tell what it was for sure. And I had the suspicion it might not be. And then all of a sudden, we didn't see them anymore. And we saw two Bigfoot up closer to us, right on the other side of the bridge. And one was down on the ground. He wasn't standing up. And he had blue eye shine, and it turned to green right in front of us. And then the one standing up had white eye shine. And so that was my first experience out of the yard, Paul's too. And so it really surprised us because the first night we were there, that happened, and a bunch more happened that weekend too. So that's when my experience started happening outside of the yard.
Awesome. And of course, Ginger, you're probably aware, you're a member of the IBRO as well, obviously. I actually was out the past or over the weekend there, Friday and on Sunday evening, and exactly the same thing as you're mentioning there is exactly the same thing as what I seen. So I can relate totally to that. It almost looks like a torch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why when I saw that in your video, I knew what it was because it looked just like the eye shine here. Um, It can look like a torch, depends what color. It's really can be real bright or it can be kind of faded too. I've seen them
Mm.
faded in other areas, but around here it's super bright like it was in your area. It's as bright as a flashlight. And we call it the flashlight effect often. And I think that's why a lot of people don't realize they're seeing a Bigfoot because it looks like someone in the woods with a flashlight,
Hmm.
you know? And I think if people knew what to look for, they would realize more often, how to see the Bigfoot. So I was glad to see you got that eye shine on video. I have a
Yeah,
couple and videos too. But
yeah.
and sometimes I only see one eye too, just like you did, lots of times. And
Hmm.
I know peek down trees. I mean, this time we saw two eyes on each beam because there was nothing blocking between us and them. It was just the other side of a cement bridge. So we could see both eyes, but lots of times we can only see one. They peek behind trees. So
Uh-huh.
lots of times you only see one eye, and that really throws people off too.
Yeah, but at the same time too, there, Ginger, from a distance, maybe it could be actually two eyes, and it just looks like one because it's so bright. Maybe they're sort of merging into the one from a distance, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. And one time what I saw, it's interesting to watch the eyes to see what they do. Um, one time I was with my husband, and I don't know if you know Sam Chandler and Keith Bearden in the Bigfoot world,
Uh-huh.
but they're Keith has written a book and all. We were down a trail in the same place that I just mentioned, but I think a year or so later we would meet up on the weekends there, and we had chairs and we were just sitting on the trail waiting around, and Keith spotted a Bigfoot right away, and um, we all saw some green eye shine. It was small. And
Hmm.
I felt like it was a juvenile and that there was maybe another one. So I got up from my chair and I walked down the trail. And sure enough, there was a big one there. and it had big, huge white eye shine, the biggest I've ever seen. I mean, it was really flared out round. You know how yours was kind of round in the picture?
Yeah.
And eyes aren't shaped round. So um it was it was real round and it was real big and it was actually pulsating. It was kind of like going back into the eye and going back out and back in and out. And it was pulsating. And it had this white ring around it. And then it had this white line that went from it over the bridge of its nose over to the other eye. And the other eye was not all flared out bright white. It was just almond shaped white.
Awesome.
So, so that showed me they don't always flare out both eyes like that
Mm.
two at the same time. You would think if one is, they both will be that way. They're not because
But
this
then,
was different.
yeah, but then like you just like you said too, obviously Bigfoots are known to tree peak at any time of the day, never mind nighttime. So obviously, they can be like you said, having one eye just peeking out round the tree and the other eye is probably hidden behind the tree too.
Yeah, right, exactly. Um, and I remember I went back and I told them, I said, "Hey, you guys, you should see this Bigfoot down here." And they went, "We can see it, Ginger." And I looked at the green eye shine and it was small, and I thought, "No, that's not it." I said, "No, that's not it. You need to come down here and see this one. It's huge." And, and nobody would believe me. I kept walking back there, and the Bigfoot was still there, and it was pulsing out this huge white eye shine. And so I just stood there with it for a while because nobody would believe me, and I just enjoyed the Bigfoot myself. And then Sam comes up, and he stood right up against on the right side of me, and his mouth dropped. And he went, "Wow!" I mean, it was that huge. I've never still to this day seen eye shine like this. It was just pulsating and out huge and we stood there and watched it and you could see it turning and looking at Paul and Keith down the trail, and when you did you could see the other eye, and the other eye was not round at all. It was just bright white almond shaped and there was no pupil. It was all one white light, and you could see the bridge of light going in between. And I haven't seen this on all the Bigfoot eye shine. It was just the way this one was doing its. And and then the light was so bright on it, it was lighting up his facial features. And
Mm.
Sam goes, "We seen its facial features?" And I said, "Uh-huh."
Cool.
And so it was really good. And then Paul comes up and gets on the other side of me now. And because sometimes you gotta be right in the direct line of sight to see it, you
Yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes, wow. And he starts going, come to the Bigfoot. And the Bigfoot spun around real fast and started walking the other direction. And Sam goes, oh, it's leaving. And then I felt bad. And I just kind of whispered, oh, please don't leave. And I didn't think it would hear me at all. And it whipped around real fast and was facing us again, pulsating its light out. And then Sam goes, oh my God, it heard you and turned around. And then my mouth was dropped. But so, it just kind of showed me that they can do different things with their eyes. And so there could be different reasons that sometimes we only see one
Yeah,
instead of.
yeah. Ginger, obviously, it's widely believed right across the Bigfoot community that Bigfoots are peaceful, non-aggressive creatures. But of course, there is the rare cases where maybe they do get slightly aggressive, or they do start throwing logs or rocks or whatever the case is, or chasing people down, bluff charging and those things. Have you ever had any of those sorts of experiences out on the field?
I have been bluff charged more times than I can remember. And I've had rocks thrown at me a lot. And but they've never hit me, and I never took it as an aggressive act. I always thought they were being friendly, so I guess my perception was just different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, like I said, we had one that used to throw a rock at our porch every time Paul and I walked out on it at night. And if it didn't, my feelings would be hurt. And I'd yell out to it and go, Scout, because that's what I call them, and then go ping and hit the porch. So I always thought of it as a friendly thing, like they were just saying hi because they never hit me. You know, I have heard people say that they hit them before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would like to think that's an accident since they've never hit me because I've had them throw rocks at me a ton of times. But they have pinged my car before. I was on the phone one time at one of my spots and I was getting ready to get out and then my car was being pinged. And I just got out and said, hey, stop throwing things at my car. And they stopped and I didn't see any dents. But so I haven't ever had damage from it. So I haven't considered it aggressive. I mean, I think it's more like them just messing around, playing with us like juveniles,
Yeah.
you know, and high and stuff. Now, grant you, I'm sure there are some that have thrown rocks or logs or whatever to get people out of an area. Maybe they got a family they need to protect or something and they
Mm-hmm.
don't feel safe, which we would do the same thing. So I just use common sense around the Bigfoot. If it seems like they don't want to be bothered or if I feel I shouldn't be in that area, I don't do that, you
Mm.
know. And so yeah, I just think treat them like you would treat your own friends and then probably you won't get the aggressive action so bad is what I'm
Yeah.
guessing. But
Yeah.
I have listened to a lot of stories, and it does seem like people's fear, they let it get out of control.
Mm.
And it's easy to do. I have to at times. I was getting bluff charged at my own house. And at first, I even took that as a good perception. I thought they were running down the hill and crashing through the trees because they were happy to see me. I come out on my porch and they go crash, come running down the hill right at me and stop, right at the wood line, right in front of the porch. And I thought, oh, you're happy to see me. And then somehow fear came in. I think I read something scary online about the Bigfoot.
Mhm.
And so then I started getting scared when they were doing that. And it was really making me upset. And I finally winded up chewing them out because I got where I was afraid to go out on my porch at night. And I felt like this is my house and that's not fair. And so I royally chewed them out, and they didn't do it ever again to me. So sometimes, yes, it can be extremely frightening and scary. One time I took off running, and the Bigfoot didn't hurt me. It was me letting my fear get out of control.
Mhm.
Not keeping myself calm. It's real important to keep your energy as calm as possible
Mm.
around them so that your fear and your imagination doesn't go out of control.
Yeah, I have to admit there on Friday night before all that IDLO incident took place,
Uh,
I have to admit now for the first time in a long time I actually got let fear overtake me. But there's a reason behind that. over here in Ireland, I'm not sure what you think about the States. I know what my view would be on the States, but obviously this is your show, Ginger. But over here, we believe that we have two separate species, and one of the species is generally pretty friendly and just all the sort of same as what your Bigfoots are. And the other one is known as the grey man, and it's probably not so friendly. And my general area, I'm not going to go into detail and bore people with my stories as a sure show, but my area is generally a woodbush territory, right? And um, they're usually pretty chilled out, but there has been a grey man spotted in the area. I don't know whether he's a rogue or what's happening there. He doesn't have a clan, I know that. He's a single old male, and he has been spotted in that area quite a few times in the past 2 years. And there's a certain area where he tends to be a lot, and I reckon that I met him before I met the rest of those guys later on that night. But the fear did come into me then, knowing that potentially I had a 10-foot grey man probably 20 feet from me.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah, it's really hard not to. I mean, I say that, but like I said, I can't always control it either. Um, sometimes the fear really gets me too, and I think that just hurts us in the end because, for one, we don't get to enjoy the experience, and what may cause a problem with the fear. Fear is what makes us shoot at something when we're afraid of it. So it's just important to control it. Yes, I do believe there could be different species. I don't see why not. There's different species of us. So,
Is there anything that you've came across in the States, Ginger, on your research tips that would suggest to you? I'm not saying obviously there's different. The States is a big place. North America is a big place, and these different species could be in different areas or whatever the case is. Some of them may cross paths from time to time, and I know for a fact that they do that in the States. But have you personally seen any evidence to suggest, like maybe different types of prints or whatever, in your time researching that there is evidence that there could be more than one species in your area, or do you reckon you're dealing with the one species in your area?
I have seen different colors of the Bigfoot in my area. I don't know if that qualifies them as a different species or not, though. You know, and I've seen them different thicknesses. Like some are bigger than others, and some are skinnier than others. And so I don't know if that qualifies them as being different species or not. But I suppose it does because there are differences in them. I do have a different kind of looking one than around here than what I've seen in lots of the other pictures. In fact, I had never seen a drawing of the kind I've seen here until I went to the Bigfoot Museum in Georgia, which is I live in, and they had a drawing from somebody, where Sybil, she draws people's photos of Bigfoot, and it looked just like the ones I'd seen in my yard. And the ones here were real, super skinny, and their fingers were long and lanky and skinny. And I see pictures of them up in like Washington, and they look bigger and thicker. And maybe that a lot of it has to do with the weather too, because we haven't had snow here in 3 years, so probably skinnier, less hair serves them better than being thicker.
Yours in Georgia then would be known as the booger. Yeah, is it the booger in Georgia? Yeah.
Well, actually, I think they're bigger in Washington than they are here. The ones here seem a little smaller and shorter, and I've heard some other people say that too.
Yeah, but maybe you didn't just quite pick me up there, Ginger, right, with the signal. But the actual type in Georgia, I mean, the actual name for them would be the booger, the wood booger, is it?
Oh, Woodburn. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have heard people here call it that. I'm more native Georgia. I'm not native to Georgia. I'm actually native to Florida, but I have heard people call it that here, the wood booger and stuff like that. Yep, definitely. That's what they call it a lot around here. Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of tales from people who have lived here a long time ago. And when you drive around, you see a lot of Bigfoot statues in people's yards. So you can definitely tell Bigfoot are well known around here.
Yeah. My take on that, Ginger, actually, would be that is a different species. The Sasquatch. That's only my view. But
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of reports, and I know I spoke to obviously a lot of guys and girls right across the south and the east and the states, and Most of the ones that the guys see are tall and skinny, So
Yeah.
generally, if most people are seeing the same thing, tall and skinny, well then, where people in the northwest and stuff like that are seeing big, bulky,
Yeah. Yeah.
squatch, that there's clearly a different species there of at least one or two different species, or two different species at least.
Also, another difference is the green eye shine. I had a really hard time finding some people when I first got in the Bigfoot world that had seen green eye shine. It seems like out west that's not near as common. And
Mm-hmm.
around here, the first two I ran into, they both had green eye shine, and then when we went out of here, like I told you, that first experience, we had one that went blue and then green in front of us. And so I had a hard time. And then finally I found some people that'd seen green eye shine, and Paul had got a Bigfoot book that said it, but that person lived on the east of the United States too. But I don't know if that's also something more that this personality of this species of Bigfoot do here or not, because
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of the green here.
In your particular state, Ginger, I'm not going to mention anybody's names because it's not up to me to mention his name, but you probably know the person I'm going to talk about. But he is in Georgia, and he clearly seen two completely different species. And
Oh,
I had asked him, well, how do you know that there were two different species? And he just said, Chris, I know because I seen a squatch. It was 10 foot tall. It was built like a brick. You know what? And
yeah.
this other thing that he seen was basically a Neanderthal. He said it was completely bald. Now he says now, fair enough. Now it may have had hair at one time. There could have been something wrong with it. He doesn't know, but definitely this thing that he seen was definitely your basic Neanderthal, and it was about 5.5 feet tall. Whereas and it was really muscly and stuff as well. So that would suggest that it wasn't a juvenile for a start. So it was really muscly, and you know what I mean. So that that to me would indicate that you guys probably have the woodwish in the states as well. Then.
Yeah, yeah, we may, because I've seen a lot of the not as tall. I've seen them look like they were like 8 foot tall. I was with somebody one time and she saw one and she thought it was about 10 foot. I didn't see it though, but that was more north of Georgia than me.
Mm.
And I went camping there a couple of years ago for my first time, and I saw Bigfoot there too. The first day it was a juvenile though, but then that night I saw one. I was laying on a little wooden bridge looking up at the stars, and then I saw a shooting star and followed it down. And in front of me, I saw Bigfoot standing there, right on the other side of the bridge.
Cool.
And I was like, oh, it had white eye and it was round, but it was real dithered and faded. And here it is super bright, like a flashlight.
Mm.
And another lady had seen the same thing from a Bigfoot somewhere else, that same camp out, and she said it was dithered too. So once again, there was a difference than there was here. And that was like a couple hours north of me.
Yeah.
I
Cool.
was in the
But
mountains.
yeah, there's actually another story there. I'll go into briefly with you, Ginger, that I heard a couple of years back as well. It was in California, so this is right out west. It's one of those rare cases where somebody sees two different things at the one time. And this guy was in some valley in California. I can't remember exactly where it was, but he was standing minding his own business as you do. He wasn't even out bigfooting. I'm not sure what he was doing, but he seen what you would describe as the American almas. So that would be the American woodwish, the same sort of thing, walking
Mhm.
along the bottom of the valley. And he noticed that this almas, American almas, woodwish, whatever you want to call it, it kept looking back behind him. It wasn't paying any attention to this man whatsoever, right? It kept looking behind him, really scared, as if it was scared, right? So the guy thought maybe there's a huge bear or something after it, or there's a big cat or something like that, maybe going to try and attack it. But he happened to look up on the embankment on the far side, and he seen your typical 10 foot tall squatch
Uh-huh.
standing at the top of the hill. So this Almas had kept looking back at it. It was terrified of the squatch. You know what I mean? So that was clearly another. If it's true, of course, that's clearly another example. Of two different species. This Almas creature as he describes, he described it as an almas, their typical almas, like from Russia or whatever,
Ah,
you know, that sort of thing. And I've kept looking back at the Squatch, so obviously, you know, it was terrified of the Squatch because the Squatch was like 4 foot taller than it, you know.
yeah, I'm sure. Well, I know the first time the Bigfoot came to our yard and was howling, my cat was inside the house and got on her belly and crawled across the floor. So, I've seen how they can terrify animals, that's for sure.
Mm, definitely,
But
yep.
yeah, there's a lot of differences. I went to Washington a couple years ago, or 2, 3 years ago, with some friends, and went camping up there too. And I saw eyeshine there too, and it was more dithered also. And the Bigfoot seemed more friendly during the day too. The
Mm,
first here I get more night activity, um, although I've gotten some day. But the first day I was there, I was walking down a trail by myself, and I got a real loud whoop. And it wasn't too far away. And I'm like, oh, friendly Bigfoot here.
cool. Well, of course, Georgia, Ginger is just right above Florida. So, have you ever been into Florida looking for the skunk ape?
I never went down there looking for the skunk ape, but I think I had experiences with it and didn't know I was because I
Hmm.
didn't know there was such a thing as Bigfoot. Um, well, I lived out in the country out in Florida, and we just had horses and woods around us and stuff when we moved out there. And one night we had real loud howling in our yard, and I just thought maybe it was a bear. I didn't know. And then it came to the garage door, and we could see its silhouette from the light, and it was standing up. On both its legs, but a bear can do that also, and it was
Hmm.
banging on the garage door. So I don't know, but I don't know. Bears howl. I had to look that up. But anyways, that babysitter didn't come back, and so I don't know for sure what that was. But then I had this trail too. When I got around 16, I would drive and park down it before I went home at night, and that I would have these things walking up to me, and they were bipedal, and they were real loud, and you could see the silhouettes of them standing up.
Mm,
And I was young. I thought they were bears just walking up, and they were friendly. You know, I was too afraid to ever get out of my car, though. I just sat in my car with the
mm.
windows down, and I'd be like, "Hi," and
Yeah. And
and
of course, Ginger, the skunk ape is believed again to be a different species again, and many researchers in Florida have described seeing both types, and they're both being completely different creatures.
yeah, and we used to get the skunk smell like crazy all the time in our yard.
Mm,
I mean, all the time. I had that once happen in Georgia, actually. It was just like a year and a half ago. I was walking down a trail with a friend from the BFRO, and it was night, and we were walking down, and all of a sudden we smelled a real strong skunk smell, and it's like, okay, we didn't know there was a skunk
mm,
or a Bigfoot, and so we walked about 100 feet more. He approximated, and the skunk smell had completely disappeared, and I mean, it completely disappeared. And then when we walked about 100 feet more, there it was again, real, real strong. And then we just walked a few feet more and it completely disappeared. And we both said, okay, that's strange because usually a skunk smell lingers around for hours.
mm-hmm.
You know, and we were telling our friend Tom Cantrell about it. He said that's how usually everybody explains it. You smell it and then it goes away, and then you
Mm.
smell it comes back. And the second time after we smelled it, he heard something run right behind him, and I did too. And I turned around to look, and then we heard something run in the bushes right in front of us. You know, so we think it was a Bigfoot making the skunk smell, and
Yeah.
you know.
Do you think, Ginger, just on the subject of the odors that people report, do you think that Bigfoot actually admit, you know, that smell to maybe put people off, or is it just the fact that they haven't washed in a few months?
In Florida, I don't know because they do call them skunk aches, and so I don't know if that is just the way they smell from, the mucky waters there in Florida, in the swamps and all.
Mm,
I don't because they call them skunk aches, like they always smell like that. Here in Georgia, I do think it's just something they put off because we followed those steps completely back the way we took in, and there was no skunk smell at all. So it
mm,
doesn't make any sense at all that there was a skunk there. And I've walked down that trail, I don't know how many times, and that was the first time that's happened. This time I walked down with somebody brand new,
Mm,
and so I'm kind of thinking maybe the skunk smell was put out because I had somebody brand new with me,
mm,
and it was maybe a defensive reaction or so. That's what I've heard sometimes it can be, is it's a defensive thing
mm.
where they're trying to put you out a little, trying to get you go away.
Yeah, I'd probably, I would say probably with, obviously with some of them that would be the case. But on Sunday, last night, on Sunday, the second time I got the eye low over the weekend, um, when I got down level with the tree that it was in, I smelled a extreme odor there, but it was sort of lingering, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
compared to,
yeah,
but there being there and then disappearing. It was sort of lingering. I stood about there for a little while after and I could still smell it. And it was
yeah.
nothing. Well, to be honest with you, I have never really had that before. I've had plenty of, glimpses and sightings and things like that, but I've never really had that before. Maybe once on one occasion, maybe a few years back, but it's not something that sticks out. I mean, that was really the first time on Sunday that I got that, and it's funny that it was the exact place where the idol was.
Uh-huh, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, maybe they were putting out that smell to kinda let you know they were there and it was their area,
Yeah.
you know? Um, I never smelled that when they were here in the yard, ever. So
Mm.
that was my first experience with the skunk smell here in Georgia. Like I said, we smelled it a lot in Florida, but I didn't know what Bigfoot were then, and maybe it was a skunk at times, I don't know. So
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. I just know now that those things that were walking up to me at night bipedal weren't friendly bears. You know?
To be quite honest with you, Ginger, I think I'd actually rather meet a Bigfoot than a bear. We don't have bears in Ireland. Of course, you guys have them, but we don't have them in Ireland. But you know, you have a lot to contend with over there.
Yeah,
With all the animals that you have, especially in the south with crocs and everything, or alligators. But
yeah.
we're quite lucky not to have those creatures here. So, and it does help our research here because I'm sure you guys are sick and tired of these documentaries on TV where people have found this Bigfoot print and they say, oh, it's a bear print doubled over and all this malarkey. They try to pass that off, oh, it's a bear print doubled over or crossed
Oh, I
over,
know.
do you know what I mean? But we're quite lucky that way because they can't do that with us. We don't have any bears.
Well, up in North Georgia, I think it was like last year, they'd found some bones and some rangers had it and they were trying to figure out what kind of bones they were. They finally said they were a bear, but those didn't look like bear bones at all. We were like, no way. And then the story just disappeared.
Mm. That's quite convenient how these stories just disappear, Ginger.
Mhm. It did not look like bare bones. The fingers were way too long on it, like I had said they look like here. That's
Mm.
what they look like, you know? I thought, "No way, that is not a bear." You know?
Yeah, definitely. But Ginger, I think we're into the second half of the show here
Okay.
already. Time does fly as we go. But just as we're talking about maybe things like that, have you any views on the conspiracies behind Bigfoot? On the government conspiracies behind it. Have you any sort of belief yourself on why it's being hidden or why the truth being kept from the public?
I don't know exactly why they keep the truth from the public about that. I mean, it is on government sites. Like I went to a Washington site the other day, and on the Forest Division, they had mentioned the Bigfoot in there to be careful and stuff. So the government is posting it on stuff, and you can find it on their sites. And I've seen it on their military maps. So it's kind of like they're not hiding it, but yet they're also not blowing it up in our face. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So um, why they're not, I all I can think is so that we don't all panic.
mm. And maybe also just to stop the big corporations from complaining maybe about certain things too.
Right, right. Maybe so, because I mean it is all about the economy and money, you know. And I don't know what would happen if the whole world knew that Bigfoot were real. I'm sure
Mm.
a lot of people would start going out into the woods to try to hunt them and kill them, and then people would probably shoot each other by accident, and so you
Yeah, well, I suppose too. Everybody loves a mystery,
know.
and who knows? It could be a big conspiracy, right? It could be a big conspiracy we don't know, and it probably is. But I mean, it could be the
I don't
same
know.
thing too, where people in government enjoy having a mystery just as much as what we do, and maybe they feel that if they come out and say, "Okay, Bigfoot's real, here we go, there's proof," then the mystery's over.
Right. Now, let me tell you, the state parks around here are advertising it now. And in Georgia, they're selling Bigfoot T-shirts, Bigfoot backpacks, and if you walk up and ask the rangers, they'll tell you there's lots of Bigfoot sightings there.
Well, that's good to hear.
Uh-huh. So, I mean, yeah, it does seem weird that it's been hidden all these years, and I don't know why, but it's definitely starting to come out more and more.
Mm. Like, there is those theories going about, especially in North America, that it was being kept hidden because of the logging rights. They'll have to close forests because it's a protected species and all these sorts of
Oh,
theories.
okay.
And
Yeah.
of course, I would probably align to some of that there, but at the same time too, I think, and I'm sure you think it too, Ginger, that Bigfoot is very adaptive, and I don't think loggers and logging rights to companies and stuff would have any effect on them whatsoever. Personally, I would believe it would be that they would travel wherever they need to
Oh,
go.
yeah,
And
they travel to some other woods if their woods get taken down. Absolutely. I don't want to see any woods get taken down because then all the animals have to travel somewhere else too. But I mean, I hate for them to have to do that, but absolutely, I think they can just completely adapt and go to somewhere else.
mm. But the likelihood of I mean, there's such amount of fast forests in America. The likelihood of all that going in no time is very, very slim unless we get hit by an asteroid.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. It got hit by an asteroid, you said?
That's probably the only way that all the forests in America would disappear, maybe.
I don't know. Well,
You
a
know.
lot now disappearing from the fires.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, but I mean, obviously, the habitat over there, Ginger, is massive. North
Yeah.
America. North America is a very big place, and who knows what kind of creatures you guys have got in those woods besides Bigfoot. But out on your research trips, then, Ginger, have you ever had any suggestions that you've maybe been dealing with something else that wasn't Bigfoot, maybe a different kind of cryptid, or?
Yeah, well, absolutely. We used to see all these little green lights in the yard, and I thought they were a bunch of juvenile Bigfoot eye shine because I didn't know there was anything else cryptid besides Bigfoot. and, um, and, um, and then we realized they weren't because one day I just said hi to them, and Paul and his father and I were sitting on the porch, and the little green lights came zooming up to us and started spinning in circles. I was like, okay, that's not Bigfoot eye shine. Okay.
Cool. Do you reckon that was some sort of an alien or something, Ginger? Or
I call them fairies or elementals. I
mm,
don't know for sure what they are. I'd have to have an expert here to see them and say what they are, but that's what I call them. You
mm.
know, I think of them as being earth elementals or something or fairies. Um, so I just call them fairies now. And they were just little green lights. They're not here in the yard anymore, but I didn't realize when we talked to them, they would come up to us and stuff. So I thought they were juvenile Bigfoot eye shine at first. There's definitely a lot of different kind of beings out there, and it's interesting to learn about different ones. And I think we've also had some dogman around us at time. Once we saw a dogman print dogman print at a camp out, and one of the people had spotted a dogman. So yeah, there's a lot out there.
So you've obviously, if you found a Dogman print, you've seen evidence to suggest that Dogman is a different thing than Bigfoot. Then, because
Oh,
some people would argue that it's just a misidentification of Bigfoot.
yeah, I saw the print. My phone was dead because we couldn't get a signal out there, so I didn't have my phone charged. But I didn't get a picture of it, but some of my friends did, and it looked like a dogman print. And then one of my friends saw a dogman in the woods that night. It had different color eye shine than what a Bigfoot did, and she recognized it. And so I definitely think there's other things out there also, and I do think there's a spirit world on, how you have all the ghost hunters and all
Mhm.
that. And there's a lot of different things out there. Yes.
Of course, Ginger, a lot of us, especially guys like us, researching in the woods all the time, obviously have experiences that sometimes we would rather forget. And one of those would be being hit by infrasound. Has that ever happened to you?
What happened?
Being hit by infrasound.
Being hit by infrasound. Oh no, it's happened to me. I've had almost everything happen to me. I've been both charged, hit by infrasound, everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, the infrasound scared the heck out of me. I couldn't
Yeah.
breathe and I couldn't think.
Mm.
And in fact, it was a big, it looked like a Bigfoot that ran by. That's what we were guessing it was. It looked like it was gliding.
Mm.
And the shine on it was so big, it looked like a big headlight. And Paul said, we just came off a trail and I had mind speak for my first time that night.
Mm.
And it, as soon as we got on this trail, I heard in my head, don't go down this trail like that. And I thought, I don't talk to myself like that. That's weird. I told my husband right away. And he goes, well, what do you want to do? And we were kind of smack in the middle of two trails. So I felt like, what's going to be longer to go back the way we came? So we just kept going forward anyhow. And I felt fear the whole time. I guess it was from getting that mind speak telling me not to go down the trail.
Yeah.
And as soon as we got to the end of the trail, he was feeling it too. He said, what is that car? And I thought, why are we looking at cars? And so I looked over there and I saw this one big headlight, and then it turned and it started coming right down the road where we were getting ready to walk out on.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, where is its back lights? Because it turned. We should have been able to see its rear lights, and obviously it had another headlight out. And there wasn't any. It was just this one big, huge light. And and it looked like it was attached to a body and it was gliding across the road. And you know how sometimes they say the Bigfoot don't bounce up and down and they look like they're gliding when they run?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what it looked like. And when it got in front of us, I got infrasound hit. And I couldn't think, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't speak or nothing.
Yeah.
And all I could do was watch the Bigfoot pass by. And Paul asked me 3 times, what do you want to do now? And I couldn't talk at all. And I couldn't think to answer. And finally, the 3rd time I said, let's go to the car, because I had been frightened to death,
Yeah.
and it was just extreme fear. And he goes, you want to go back to the car? It's like, he didn't get hit by it. It was just me. And I wondered if it was to keep me from running out in the road in front of it while it was, hauling butt down the road or something. I don't know. But I got hit by infrasound.
Well, of course, it's a nasty, nasty experience. I've actually had it 3 times over my time researching, and I don't know whether it's the same, it affects people the same way or not, but I actually thought I was taking a heart attack, and the sweat was running clean off me. Massive, massive sore head, all those different things, combined into one. But I have to say now, the confusion that came along with it was probably more scary.
Yeah, I had the confusion. I couldn't think or figure out what I wanted to do or anything. Yeah. I had all that confusion. It does hit everybody differently. I haven't heard anybody hit exactly the same, which makes sense because all of our bodies are different. So we're all going to feel it different. Just like if one person catches a cold, the other person feels it a little different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, of course, that's obviously what one of the tricks that they would use for their prey. Ginger, then they would obviously use that to disable prey, but I would imagine.
Well, I know, like tigers and stuff use that.
Yeah.
To get their prey to like get in a confused state.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So yeah, I've had that happen to me before too. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. But it took me weeks before I would go back to the woods again after that. And for months, my friends, when they would meet me in the woods, they could tell I was still affected by it.
And of course, that obviously, well, it tends to happen more so in areas maybe that you haven't been to before, or something like that, where the Bigfoots don't know you, or they're not used to you. So, that's in my case and other cases that I've heard. The 3 different occasions that had happened to me were all in different areas where I never go to.
This wasn't actually an area we did go to a lot. It was where we were going every weekend. But like I said, I did have mind speak right there on the trail right before it happened. So I did get warned, not to go down that trail.
That that also, Ginger, that also could maybe could that have been a different clan moving through,
Yeah.
or who
Yes.
knows?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, like I said, the ones in my yard never did that to me. They did bluff charge me, but they never infrasounded me. So, yeah, it definitely could have been. And like I said, maybe it was to protect me for some reason. So who knows what the Bigfoot are doing? Um, maybe it was to keep me out of their way, so I wasn't going to get in the way. Because that one was a hauling butt down that road.
Yeah, yeah. But I have to. It is scary now whenever those sort of things happen. But lucky enough,
Mhm.
I've never had a bluff charge, not yet anyway. I'll just touch wood if I can find some. Hold on.
Crap, you know,
Yeah,
and it is a bluff. That's why they call it bluff charge. They stop right before they get to you. So just
yeah.
remember that if it's happening to you, they will stop.
Mm.
You know?
Just get the camera ready. Just get the camera ready, and
Yeah,
Ginger, when they get right up to you,
there
click,
you
click,
go.
click. Snap. There's a wee photograph of your face. Thank you very much, Bigfoot.
Stop right in the tracks. There you go. Kill the
Oh dear, dear. But sometimes we have to laugh, otherwise we may cry. But um, in your area, then, Ginger, have you ever seen anything to suggest that you had the grey man there? Of course, the grey man is something that is more aligned with Scotland and Ben McDooey and the Cairngorm Mountains. But of course, there's been reports right across Britain of the grey man and into Ireland as well. So obviously, it's the belief that it's just simply an old squatch. That's really what it is. Most of the rest of them are black or brown, whatever. But these guys are just really old and they're grey. Have you ever seen any grey
yeah,
ones yourself?
and it was totally differently shaped than the normal ones that I see around here. It was completely gray. Um, it was on my neighbor's. It was in my neighbor's backyard. There's a huge granite boulder
Uh
coming
huh.
out of our yard because we live, on the start of the mountain range here. And I looked over at it one night right before sunset, and I thought, I don't remember that boulder being that big before. So I kept looking at it, and it wasn't. There was a huge gray Bigfoot sitting on top that was the same color as the boulder, and he
Hmm.
was perched. You know, and it was huge and it was real big one. And I thought, well, that doesn't look like any of the other ones I've ever seen before.
What difference in shape? What do you mean now, Ginger? Because it'd be interesting to hear what you have to say here because we have a report just down south here in Ireland, and it was very unique. So it'd be interesting to hear what you have to say with the shape of it.
His shoulders were huge. Now, ours can have big shoulders here too, though, but it didn't have that real skinny look to it. It seemed like the hair was thicker and fuller, and it seemed like his body was thicker and fuller.
Mm-hmm. Because the guy that reported this down south, it was down in County Clare, I think. The same thing. The body was absolutely massive. The shoulders were, I mean, absolutely huge, and the shoulders were so big, his head looked really tiny, and
Yeah.
his head was sort of pointy. Obviously they've all got conical heads, or whatever. But it actually looked pointy because the shoulders were so big and the head looked so small.
Well, that's what this had was huge shoulders and a huge body. And yeah, the head always can look kind of small sometimes when the bodies are real big, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what this looked like. And was that guy in Georgia? I wonder. You said the South, or is it South over there?
Oh, the south of Ireland.
Oh, South of Ireland, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So I mean, those sorts of things. There, obviously, that's the two we have here. There's the grey man, and the other one is the woodbush. But I mean, who's to know? Are they just an older version of the wood? I can't see them being an older version of the woodbush because they're different, totally different features and everything else. And
Well, a lot of people think there are a lot of hybrids out now, and and then they think there's still some ancient ones too. From what I've heard, they think the lighter colored ones, like the white and gray ones, are more the ancient ones. I don't know this. This is just what people's theories have been, and and then so I don't know, but yeah, there are theories that there are more hybrid ones out now, and I guess we got that from some DNA too that came up with some human DNA and something else,
mm,
and then so I guess there's ones that are still pure and look completely different, and then there's the hybrids, and I don't know. These are theories that have came out, and
yeah,
we're all seeking for the absolute truth.
Is there anything to suggest, Ginger? I know because a lot of people would ask this because obviously we all hold different theories and beliefs. Like
Mhm.
personally, myself, I don't really. Well, I have to admit, I was sort of aligned with the flesh and blood theory, but I don't accept that as fact because the reason being that nobody knows, you know. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm no expert to be able to say, listen, you know, I'm right and you're wrong. You know what I mean? So obviously there is people, you know, who would argue with somebody like yourself who's had experiences like yourself with those different things that we're actually dealing with something that's actually demonic. Would that be something that you would look into maybe yourself as well, Ginger?
I've heard lots of people think they're demonic. I have never felt that around the ones around here.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I thought actually they were angels at one time. And I mean, when they were in my yard, I was constantly asking, "What are you?" You know,
Hmm.
'cause I could tell they weren't any normal animal when they made that eye shine, you know.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, the animals don't do that, you know. So um one time I thought it was an angel, and then I got where I started thinking maybe they were aliens. And so I went through these phases. First, I thought they were apes because of the ooh, ooh, ooh kind of ape noises they were making at me, you
Uh-huh.
know. And then when I saw them standing in front of me with the eye shine glowing out, I thought, oh, you're not apes. And they were standing upright, you know.
Hmm.
And but I never had any negative evil feeling like that from them before. If
Hmm.
I did, I would stay away, you know?
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that everything we see is always a Bigfoot, just like I thought that green eye shine was Bigfoot.
Hmm.
All we can do is um, realize the green eye shine that came up flying up to us, those obviously weren't big juvenile Bigfoot eye shines. So
Hmm.
all we can do is just, decide for ourselves. That's all the researchers are doing. We're just trying to figure out what the heck is going on and what the heck are we seeing, you
Yeah.
know? And we don't until we have facts. The only facts I have is exactly what I've seen. Everything
Yeah.
else is say from others.
It's just, you know, yeah, your experiences or my experiences or anybody else who's had experiences, that's really that's the proof that we need for ourselves. But obviously that still doesn't give us answers, you know, and we're not in the position to prove to anybody else either, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Right, exactly. And like I said, I haven't had a violent interaction with the stones and all, but I have heard of others getting hit, so I can't rule things out just because it hasn't happened to me.
Mm,
you know so I keep my mind open to it all, but I don't like to walk into the woods with fear in my mind, because then I'm afraid I will have a fear encounter, because I do believe in the law of attraction. The energy I put out, the energy I will get back. So I
mm,
am careful to listening to fear stories, but I can't, and I'm definitely not going to tell someone if they were traumatized that they were lying. You know what I mean? So I think we need to definitely respect each other's stories.
yeah, I think I actually got something through it my last night. It's only ever happened to me once before. I think I told you about that. They threw like a big sleeper railway, uh, a railroad sleeper sized log at me one time a few years back. But last night when that idler was going on, just I came from the direction where I thought maybe I bumped into the grey man in the area, and as I headed down towards where the wildebeest were, I heard something. There's water all around there, and I heard a big splash in the water beside me. So whether it definitely came. It came from the direction where I had came from. So I mean, was that one of the wildebeest or was it the grey man behind me? Who knows? But uh, there's obviously going back to the different species. Ginger, before we wrap up, have you ever seen anything to suggest otherwise than what you've seen? In other words, anything that would that maybe a Bigfoot that you've seen didn't have eye glow, or
Um,
like at
the
night
way
time,
the
for example, maybe if you'd been out, and maybe you've seen Bigfoots with all their eyes glowing and stuff, but then you've seen
no,
another Bigfoot without.
eyes glow. They're not always glowing. No, sometimes they don't glow their eyes. So obviously, it's something that they can do, at free will.
Mm,
Because there's plenty of encounters I've had where their eyes were not glowing at all.
mm,
Um, and maybe some Bigfoot can't do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, obviously they do have some sort of ability. I can't say that I have seen anything magical like you've seen. I have only ever seen things that would suggest flesh and blood, but I have seen things and felt things, obviously, that we've mentioned, with their eyes glowing and infrasound, obviously. So obviously, I mean, tigers use infrasound too, so that's not really out of the ordinary, I suppose, because tigers use it, and probably some other animals in the world use it too. But
oh,
the ability to be able to glow your eyes has to be something special.
I know that is so cool, and I want to be able to glow my eyes. That would be so pretty.
That'd be cool.
Little bird flashlight at
Yeah.
night. I wondered about that sometimes if they glow them because it does light up the woods right around them,
Hmm.
so it does work as a flashlight.
Actually, it would be pretty handy though, Ginger, if you kept getting like a salesman coming to your front door every day
Yeah,
of the week trying to sell stuff. You could just open the
yeah,
door some night and just glow the
yeah,
eyes.
yeah.
I don't want any stuff.
Yeah, I got them.
Yeah. That could be pretty handy.
I would love to know how they do that.
Or you could walk into the store and maybe you need a couple of packets of whatever and you can only afford one. Can I have 2 packets of that, please?
Here you go, ma'am. Here's 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ginger, that once again we have come to the end of another show, and it's been a pleasure to have you on once again. I know we could go on talking still, I'm sure, for more hours and hours and hours. But and
Yeah.
I'm sure sometime you will come back and do another show for us again sometime, Ginger. Yeah.
Well, I very much enjoyed. We did great with each other. Thank you for interviewing me once again.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Ginger, and the stories just it never cease to amaze me. But of course, as I say, you could probably write a few books yourself, Ginger, and that maybe you should do that.
I have one in the process. Hmm.
Well, that's good. Well, if you do, let us know, and we'll let everybody know that you have that out there.
Thank you. I so appreciate that.
But Ginger, thank you once again for coming on to talk Bigfoot, and it's cheerio from me and cheerio from Ginger too.
You have a great, wonderful day.
Okay, folks, thank you, and bye bye.